Some Texas towns you have never heard of are adding more new neighbors this year than entire American cities add in a decade. Farmland is turning into subdivisions almost overnight. Two-lane roads are jammed with moving trucks, and longtime residents are watching their quiet hometowns transform in real time. Today we are counting down 12 Texas towns that are growing so fast the people who have lived there for decades say they barely recognize the place anymore. We have a farming community that just became the fastest-growing city in the entire United States, a former railroad stop that added more new homes in 3 years than it built in the previous 3 decades, and a town that jumped by more than a quarter of its population in a single year. If you live in Texas, or you are thinking about moving here, stick around, because by the end of this video you will understand exactly why so much of the country is heading straight for these small towns. And if you enjoy stories about how fast Texas is changing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now, because we cover a new corner of this state every single week. Let's get into it. Number 12. Boyd sits in Royse County, about 40 minutes northwest of Fort Worth, and for most of the 20th century, it stayed a small ranching community that most Dallas-Fort Worth residents could not point to on a map. That changed when the Census Bureau released new population estimates showing Boyd climbing by more than 25% in a single year, one of the fastest percentage increases of any city in the entire country. The growth is being driven by families priced out of Fort Worth's inner suburbs who are chasing lower home prices and more land for their money. New subdivisions have gone up along the farm roads outside downtown, and the elementary school that once served a handful of ranching families now struggles to keep pace with enrollment. Longtime residents describe driving past pastures they have known their whole lives and finding survey stakes and construction fencing where cattle used to graze. Boyd still has the feel of a small town, but city leaders admit the infrastructure was never designed for this kind of growth, and water capacity has become a real concern heading into the next decade. Before we keep counting down, if a video like this is new to you, this channel covers the small towns across Texas that never make the national news, so make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on so you catch every new episode the moment it drops. Number 11. Aubrey. Aubrey sits in Denton County along Highway 380, a corridor that has become one of the busiest growth zones in North Texas. For decades, Aubrey was known mainly for its small downtown square and its distance from anything resembling a traffic jam. That reputation is fading fast. Massive new residential developments have brought thousands of new homes within just a few years, and the town's population has climbed dramatically as builders race to keep up with demand from families relocating out of Dallas and Denton. Part of the pressure comes from major commercial projects planned along the Highway 380 corridor, which has turned the entire stretch into one of the most closely watched growth areas in the state. Longtime Aubrey residents say the 2-lane roads that used to carry a handful of pickup trucks now back up during rush hour, and the town council has had to move up road expansion projects years ahead of schedule just to keep traffic moving. A drive to the grocery store that used to take 10 minutes now regularly takes 20 because of construction and new stoplights. Number 10. Caddo Mills. Caddo Mills sits in Hunt County along Highway 66, roughly 45 miles northeast of Dallas, and it spent most of its history as a quiet farming town, built around cotton and grain. Recent Census Bureau estimates placed Caddo Mills among the fastest-growing cities in the entire country, with a population increase of more than 25% in a single year. New master-planned communities have replaced open fields along the town's edges, bringing in thousands of residents who work in Dallas but wanted more affordable housing than the inner suburbs could offer. The town's small grid of historic downtown buildings now sits surrounded by construction equipment and half-finished streets. Local officials have had to renegotiate water contracts with neighboring municipalities because the existing system was built to serve a town a fraction of its current size. Longtime residents now watch subdivisions with names like ranches and meadows go up where actual ranches and meadows used to be. Number 9. Royse City. Royse City sits along Interstate 30 in Rockwall and Hunt counties, and its location on a major highway between Dallas and the growing suburbs to the east made it a natural target for developers once land closer to the city became too expensive. The town has seen its population climb steadily for the better part of a decade, with growth accelerating sharply in the last several years as builders broke ground on subdivision after subdivision along the interstate frontage. What used to be a two-stoplight town with a handful of businesses now has big-box retail, chain restaurants, and a school district scrambling to open new campuses fast enough to keep pace with enrollment. Others say the traffic on Interstate 30 has gotten worse every single year, and the small-town charm that drew people to Royse City is disappearing under new rooftops. Number 8. Forney. Forney sits just east of Dallas along Interstate 20, and for years, it built a reputation as the antique capital of Texas. That small-town identity has been overwhelmed by growth in recent years, as Forney's population has more than tripled since the early 2000s, and new subdivisions now stretch in every direction from the historic downtown square. The growth has been fueled by Forney's location directly on Interstate 20, which puts it within easy commuting distance of downtown Dallas, while still offering larger lots and newer homes than the closer-in suburbs. School enrollment has climbed so quickly that the district has opened several new campuses in the past few years alone, and city leaders have had to expand water and sewer capacity multiple times just to keep up with permits. The antique shops are still there, but they now sit surrounded by chain grocery stores. Number 7. Fate. Fate sits in Rockwall County east of Dallas, and its name has always drawn curiosity, since nobody is entirely certain how a 19th-century farming community ended up with a one-word name that sounds like something out of a novel. What is certain is that Fate has become one of the fastest-growing cities in Texas, with new subdivisions built around Interstate 30 and Highway 66, bringing thousands of new residents in just the past several years. The town's population has grown by well over 10 times what it was at the turn of the century, and the growth shows no sign of slowing, as builders continue breaking ground on new phases of existing developments. Longtime residents remember when Fate had a single traffic light and a handful of farms surrounding a small downtown. Today, the town has multiple grocery stores, a growing retail corridor, just to keep pace with the number of families moving in from Dallas and the surrounding suburbs. Number 6. Jarrell. Jarrell sits along Interstate 35 north of Georgetown, and for most Texans, the town's name is associated with one of the deadliest tornadoes in state history, an F5 storm that tore through the area in May of 1997 and killed 27 people. For decades afterward, Jarrell remained a small farming community defined by that tragedy. In recent years, that has changed dramatically. Large, master-planned communities have gone up along the interstate corridor, drawing families priced out of Austin and Georgetown who wanted new construction homes at a lower cost. New elementary schools have opened to handle the influx of families, and the small downtown that once consisted of a gas station and a few local businesses now sits next to thousands of new rooftops. Longtime residents say the growth has brought welcome investment to a town that spent years defined by tragedy, even as traffic on the interstate frontage roads has grown noticeably worse. Number 5. Manor. Manor sits just east of Austin, and for most of its history it stayed a small farming town that Austin residents rarely had reason to visit. The town's population has grown many times over in less than 2 decades, and new subdivisions now stretch for miles along Highway 290 in every direction from the historic downtown. Home prices that once made Manor one of the most affordable places near Austin have climbed sharply as demand outpaced the available housing supply. School enrollment has surged so quickly that the district has had to open new campuses on an almost yearly basis, now filled with corporate offices, apartment complexes, and traffic patterns that did not exist when Manor was still considered a sleepy stop on the way to somewhere else. Number 4. Hutto. Hutto sits north of Austin along Highway 79, and the town has leaned into an unusual piece of history for its identity. In 1915, a circus train reportedly stopped in town and a hippopotamus escaped into a nearby creek, an event locals still celebrate with hippo-themed water towers and a mascot called Hippo. That small-town charm has been overtaken by explosive growth in recent years, as Hutto's population has grown from a few thousand residents at the turn of the century to tens of thousands today. The school district has repeatedly broken ground on new campuses just to keep pace with enrollment, and city leaders have expanded water infrastructure multiple times in the past decade. Longtime residents joke that the Hippo Water Tower is now the only thing about Hutto that has not changed. Number 3. Melissa. Melissa sits in Collin County along Highway 75, sandwiched between the fast-growing cities of McKinney and Anna, and it has become one of the clearest examples of how quickly farmland in North Texas can turn into rooftops. The town's population has grown at one of the fastest rates in the entire country in recent years. Melissa's schools have expanded rapidly to keep pace, with the district opening new campuses at a rate few Texas school systems have ever had to match. City leaders have approved subdivision after subdivision as builders race to meet demand from families moving in from Dallas and the surrounding suburbs looking for newer, more affordable homes. Now describe driving past thousands of new houses on land they used to hunt and fish on as children. Number 2. Princeton. Princeton sits northeast of Dallas in Collin County, and for most of its history it stayed a quiet, mostly rural town of a few thousand residents. That changed faster than almost anywhere else in the country. Census Bureau estimates showed Princeton's population growing by 30% in a single recent year, making it the single fastest-growing city or town of its size in the entire United States. In just a handful of years, the town's population has more than doubled, climbing past 37,000 residents as builders broke ground on subdivision after subdivision along the highway corridors leading into town. Princeton added twice as many new homes in 3 recent years as it built during the entire previous decade. The school district has opened new campuses almost every year just to keep pace, and city infrastructure built for a town of a few thousand people has had to be rebuilt for a city many times that size. Longtime residents say the pace of change has been dizzying, even by North Texas standards. Number 1. Fulshear. Fulshear sits southwest of Houston, and it may be the clearest example on this entire list of how fast a small Texas town can transform. At the start of the 21st century, Fulshear had a population that could fit inside a single large church. Today it has grown into a city of tens of thousands, driven almost entirely by massive master-planned communities like Cross Creek Ranch that brought thousands of new families into what used to be quiet farmland and cattle pasture. Recent Census Bureau estimates ranked Fulshear as the second fastest-growing city of its size in the entire United States, with a growth rate of nearly 27% in a single year alone. New grocery stores, restaurants, and schools have opened at a pace that has genuinely surprised longtime residents, some of whom remember when the entire town consisted of a single blinking light and a handful of family-owned shops. City leaders have had to fast-track road and water projects years ahead of schedule just to keep the town functioning. Every single one of these 12 towns still has residents who remember a much smaller, much quieter version of home, and for a lot of them, watching farmland turn into subdivisions has been a strange and sometimes painful thing to witness. Texas keeps adding more new residents than any other state in the country, and small towns like these are absorbing most of that growth. Some of them will keep their character, others may not be recognizable in another 10 years. If you want to see more of the small Texas towns that are quietly transforming the entire state, make sure you are subscribed. Drop a like on this video so more people can find it, and share it with anyone you know who has watched their own hometown change. We will see you in the next one.